This is Rob Morse of the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. I'm reminding you that this podcast is one of the many good ones on the Self-Defense Radio Network. Check out the other podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
Welcome to Unload and Show Clear, the podcast about all things IDPA. And now, here's your host, the slayer of non-threats, Lloyd Bailey.
Welcome to another episode of Unload and Show Clear. All too often, gun owners and gun culture are portrayed in the worst possible ways in the media. This podcast aims to counter that narrative by shining a light on the members of gun culture who are involved in IDPA, International Defensive Pistol Association. Now, while IDPA members make up just a tiny fraction of the overall gun-owning public, I think they're a representative cross-section of that demographic. They're all races, young and old, men and women, salt-of-the-earth kinds of people who love their country and who are great people to be around. And this podcast is about them. Today, you're going to meet one of these awesome people. Now, before we get started, I want to talk to you about Gun Mag Warehouse. Do you need more magazines? Who doesn't, right? Magazines wear out over time. They get damaged, they get lost, and depending on the state you're in, they might get banned. Maybe you just, you got a new gun, you need extra magazines for it. Or maybe you want some magazines to set aside to use for dry fire. Make sure that you've got plenty by visiting Gun Mag Warehouse. I use them myself. The prices are great. Shipping is fast. Visit unloadpodcast.com/mags, and when you buy, we'll earn a small commission to help keep the lights on here at Unload and Show Clear. So go visit them at unloadpodcast.com/mags. All right, time to get on with the show. Here is today's special guest. Our guest today is Kris Walley from Prairieville, Louisiana. Kris, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me, Lloyd. I really do appreciate it.
Well, tell us a little about yourself. Tell us where you're from, what you do for a living down there in Prairieville.
Well, Prairieville's about half an hour south of Baton Rouge, and I am the site security manager for a chemical plant. And basically, what does that mean? Is I'm over the security for the plant. I deal with Homeland Security. I deal with the Coast Guard. I also deal with the local law enforcement. We are on the river, so whenever they show up, I get to visit with them. So prior to that, I did a little bit of work with some contract security, and prior to that, I was a lieutenant with the sheriff's office in Baton Rouge.
Louisiana native?
Yeah, I was born in Lake Charles. Mom and Dad got married and did a little traveling around the world and settled actually just north of Dallas in Plano for a little bit, and came back down to Baton Rouge back in, I want to say it was like the summer of '88. So been there ever since.
And so where did your interest in guns come from? Were you raised around them? Did your parents take you hunting or shooting, or is that something an interest that you developed later?
I was really not into guns growing up. Wasn't a big hunter, didn't do anything like that. I was more of a sports guy. Once I got into the sheriff's office, bought my first gun, Smith & Wesson 686, great gun. Mm-hmm. Wish I still had it. That kind of got me into it. All my buddies would go shoot, we'd go to the range, and that's really kind of how it got kicked off.
How did you get interested? How did you go from no interest in guns to going out and getting your own gun, becoming getting into law enforcement and security, and then deciding to step out and actually compete? Where did the interest in competitive shooting come from?
Well, I started looking around and just to see what was out there. Here in Louisiana, there's a couple action shooting sports that are around, some clubs that here local, and I was just kind of looking to see what else was out there. I stumbled across the IDPA website, sent an email to them. They put me in contact with who was our area coordinator at the time, couple emails later, found a guy who was had moved from the Dallas area down here, and we kind of started putting a club together. There was no IDPA club, so hey, let's start it. And so we started doing the research. We started looking into it, looking at all the other clubs that were out there that had websites that we could go to, and we I guess at that point, South Louisiana IDPA was created.
You started from scratch.
Oh, very much from scratch. You know, some of these clubs that are out there, you know, putting together our bylaws and putting together our just different courses of fire and just kind of trying to figure things out. You know, they always say that plagiarism is the best form of flattery. Well, there are a lot of clubs, they just don't know it. They have been plagiarized, and so be it.
Well, and you and your club brought back the Louisiana State Championship in 2016. Talk about the effort to put that together, where that whole idea came from, and what it took, that whole experience of planning it, putting it together, and bringing it to life. Well,
we were a small club, and continue to be a small club. We've got about 50 or 60 members, and after we were shooting for a little bit, and you know, seeing these other sanctioned matches on the website, and we kind of started talking about it, and it was like, hey, we could do this. We traveled a little bit just to kind of see what everybody else was doing. Mm-hmm. You know, my first sanctioned match ever to shoot was in 2015, was with Will Schmid at the Mississippi Showdown. Mm-hmm. And it was a fabulous experience. And so we went to Mississippi, went to a couple smaller matches, you know, here and there, and hey, we can do this. It wasn't really, hey, let's go compete. It was more of a fact finding. Hey, let's see how these other people are doing it. Mm-hmm. And we all came back together, and they said, hey, well, you know, these people did this and these people did this, and it worked. So that's kind of where our first sanctioned match started out. Got the logistics, and they always say that the first one is always the hardest, and that is the truth. There was a lot of worrying going on. Basically, it was, can we pull this off? And we did it. We had a tier 2 match, mm-hmm. had approximately 70 shooters, yourself being one of them. And yep. I you know, hope, you know, you and the Silvas, they came down and had a good time. And the next year we said, well, we did it okay this year. Let's do it again. And we went from a tier 2 to a tier 3, and our participation doubled. Most recently, we held a tier 3 match, and we had approximately 168 shooters. When we were taking in the applications and looking at everybody, we were just shocked at how many people from all over the United States came. We're thinking, well, you know, we'll get people from Texas, and we'll get people from Arkansas and the southern states. Mm-hmm. But you know, I started getting mail in with these applications in it, and match fees and what have you, from Montana and Pennsylvania and Maine. It was like, wow. And then the one that really hit me was we had 2 gentlemen sign up from Canada. Wow. And we got to thinking about it. It's like, why are people coming down south? But if you look at the time of year, our match is the first weekend of March. That's when we always have it. Mm-hmm. And it's still cold up there. It's snowing. Right. It's 85 degrees. So we think that maybe the weather had a little bit to do with it, but we will sure take that.
Well, the food and your proximity to New Orleans doesn't hurt, or New Orleans, depending on how you want to pronounce it.
Depending on where you're from, that's correct.
The food is fantastic. The match food was great, and of course, there's all the local establishments. It's a great draw, so you can have a terrific match, and then you have all the amenities that South Louisiana also offers.
Yeah, it is really good. And in fact, the match that we're planning for 2019, looking at the date, it's the weekend prior to Mardi Gras. Our first match 2 years ago, Mardi Gras was the Tuesday, and then our match was that next weekend. And I know that some people came down. They came down early.
Mm-hmm.
They went and had a good time. So hopefully this time, we'll pull some more people in, and they'll stay over for a few days and enjoy Mardi Gras again.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that first sanctioned match that you shot, the Mississippi Showdown.
Mississippi Showdown.
What do you remember from that first match experience, that sanctioned match experience? Not from the spying on the fact finding part of it, but the actual shooting part of it as a competitor.
Yeah. At first, it was the nervousness. First sanctioned match. What have I gotten myself into? And you see these people walking around, and they've done they're seasoned veterans of sanctioned matches. And now it's now I'm this little fish trying to figure things out. But we had a great squad. We were squadded with some people from our local club, and we were also squadded with some people from Alabama and Mississippi. So we all kind of came together, and those people were, like I said, they were seasoned veterans. Mm-hmm. And they helped calm the nerves a little bit, but yet there were the friendly faces from my club that we were able to work through things.
Yep.
And that is what I remember the most.
So what division do you compete in most often? And what's your favorite? What is the firearm that you use most often to compete with?
I am currently shooting an STI Trojan, and I shoot CDP Marksman.
Okay. What? How many matches are you generally trying to shoot? It's a little tougher in South Louisiana. You've got Mississippi, you've got South Texas, and Central Texas is not too far away. What about an 8-hour drive? And mm-hmm. You've got some sanctioned matches. You generally get up into. Do you guys make it up to Oklahoma and Arkansas as well?
Well, I've gone. Last year, I made it to. I made it to Oklahoma State mm-hmm. In Tulsa. Had a great time there. I've made it up to MVSA in Arkansas, and right. I've also made it up to Little Rock. To shoot that one, I think I've shot that one 2 or 3 times. Then they have their fall brawl, and then they have the Razorbacks. They've kind of got 2 going on at the 2 in a year,
right?
And so I've made a couple trips up there. I always go to Mississippi, and here recently we went up to Memphis and shot that match, and had a great time up there also.
With all of the responsibilities that you've got with the job and family and running your own club and planning for your state match, how much time do you get to devote to practice and preparing for actually shooting yourself? Do you do much dry fire? Do you what's your practice routine like?
When there is time for practice. Well, and actually, I have to. Our club started something new here recently. Our home range is about an hour and a half outside of Baton Rouge in Thibodaux, and we shoot there on the second Sunday of the month. Well, we recently started shooting a second monthly match at a smaller range, setting up a few stages, nothing too elaborate. So we're shooting 2 club matches a month. When there is time to practice the dry fire, I've actually picked up that the Mike Seeklander shooting performance,
mm-hmm.
and that's got some really good stuff in it.
Yep.
And usually what I try to do is some of the drills that the live fire drills that are actually in the book. I try to take those and put them into our local match as a standards or just a quick warm up or something like that. So it kind of brings everybody kind of gets a little taste of it.
Right.
As far as dry firing, it is what it is when I can get to it. It doesn't happen that often, but it does. Just kind of, I go through the book and I see what's there.
Right. It's easy to put that one on the back burner and say, "Oh, I'll do it tomorrow."
Yeah, that it is.
Are your kids into shooting as well?
Well, my 15-year-old daughter was shooting one of the other disciplines. She shot that for a few years, and then she has kind of given that up. High school and boys and all the high school activities, and she's just kind of taking a break from it now.
Yep, I understand.
And then I've got a 10-year-old. He is he's ready to just jump into it feet first. But again, with everything that he's got going on with baseball and scouts, and timing is kind of tough sometimes.
Yep. Life happens.
That's right.
So, 2015 was your first sanctioned match. The different matches that you've shot at Arkansas and Oklahoma and Texas, Mississippi. Is there a stage or a particular match that stands out in your mind as, wow, that was really fun, or that was really interesting, or you sat back as you planned your way through the stage, or when you read the match book and you said, how in the world did they do that? Is there something that just sort of jumps out at you as particularly unusual or fun or exciting?
I think Oklahoma State last year was probably the funnest match I had gone to at the time. It's held at the U.S. Shooting Academy, which beautiful facilities.
Yep.
And it's a neat range to go to. I went up there and I actually was asked to help work the match. So I was able to see it as a staff member, and then you see all the shooters come through. And to be honest with you, I like working it as a staff member. That was one of the first matches I'd worked as a staff member. And what I like about it is you have your one stage and everybody sees you. You don't have to worry about going from stage to stage. Everybody comes to you, and you get to visit, you get to see everybody. But what topped off that whole weekend was the first time that I actually won by division. Oh. So I came back with, my first place award, and it was really cool.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I've got fond memories of that from matches at that range. It's a fun place to shoot.
Oh, absolutely. And they've got, some great props and stages, and Pete Noveski up there, he does a good job. He really does. He puts on a good match.
Yeah. What is it about the sport that has motivated you to get as involved in it as you are, that to start a club from scratch, to revive the state championship, and to put it on to excellent matches in successive years, and to plan for the future, and to travel to all these different places to shoot matches? What is it about IDPA that you love? If somebody says, well, what is this IDPA thing all about? What would you tell people about it? What is it that makes you passionate about it?
Well, I've listened to your other podcasts, and I hate to say what everybody else has said, but the people make it what it is. From that that first sanctioned match that I went to, and these other people in my squad, they didn't know me from, the Man in the Moon, and they were giving us pointers. They were helping us out. They knew it was our first time. We didn't get the cold shoulder. We didn't, anything like that. It was, hey, come on, we'll help you out. Mm-hmm. Going to these matches, you start seeing the same people over and over again, which is not a bad thing. And you build that relationship. And, I've got friends that I can call on, and actually some of them that I talk to on a regular basis that are, in Mississippi and in Tennessee and in Arkansas and in Texas. And that's it. I mean, basically, yeah, you get to shoot and, hey, this is cool, but it's the camaraderie. And it's, what you do after the match. I know our club, there's a handful of us, you go out to dinner, you go out to lunch, you go hang out and you learn about each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it in a nutshell. I mean, that's it.
Absolutely.
And I truly believe that when I'm able to check the Western off of my list, those people that are out there are going to welcome me just like I was welcomed in Mississippi or Texas or Arkansas. I truly believe that. And I just think that's what makes the sport what it is.
No doubt about it. All right. Well, Kris, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really do appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you at a match in the near future. And I hope you get out to the Western before too much longer, too.
Yeah, I hope so, too. And, y'all are more than welcome. Like I said, always welcome to come down. And like I said, the registration is open for the 2019 Louisiana State Championship.
All right. Thanks, sir.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it. Good talking to you.
All right, that's all we've got for you today. Thank you so much to our special guest for coming on the show. If you know somebody in the IDPA community who deserves some recognition, I'd love to talk to them. Send me an email at Lloyd, Lloyd, at unloadpodcast.com. Check out the show notes for today's episode and listen to past episodes at unloadpodcast.com. And if you like what you hear on the show and you'd like to support us, help keep the lights on, pay the bills, we would love your support. Visit patreon.com/unload and make a small monthly contribution to help continue what we're doing here. Tune in again next week for another edition of Unload and Show Clear.